his experiences, Cal, you've got your own experiences that you've talked about some before. Can you just sort of recount what maybe sticks out the most to you?
Sure. Yes. The number one thing is, we were really young. Very, very similar to where we are now on offense here. We were started out, pretty good moving the football, scoring points, and then as the season went, our inexperience and everything kind of showed up, and we ended up 1-11. It was an extremely tough year. Whenever I think back at my time at Cal, I remember the UCLA game at UCLA. I remember the looks on all of my young receivers' faces while I was talking to them. And I just remember, candidly, the conversation I had with them about you just got to be patient. All of this work, everything that you're doing right now is going to pay off. I know it's hard for you. I know it's hard for young people. They want everything right now, like right now, as we all know, parents, things like that. But you got to be patient, and you got to not give up. And one day, you guys are going to be one of the best offenses in all of college football. And Jared Goff was there, and all of those young receivers. There was like 9 guys go play in the NFL, and they were just young little pups. And like I said, very similar to the 8 true freshmen we started in certain different personnel groupings on offense the other night. One day they're going to look up, and they're going to be one of the most explosive teams, I think Arizona State has ever had on offense at one point in time. I remember that conversation. Whenever I think back at Cal, I remember that. I remember leaving and how sad that it was when I went to Kansas as the offensive coordinator, and I knew they were going to be, that I was going to miss the payday. And I don't know, my faith, I believe in my faith that things happen for a reason, and I didn't know why, but I was leaving, and I just remember that year at Kansas was one of the hardest, toughest times of my life, watching those guys on TV while we were going 0-12, knowing that I could have been there and, experience all of the joys that came from all the hard work I never got to enjoy while I was there. So, but those are kind of the thoughts that I had, and just the memories and the relationships that I had with those receivers when I was there. I love those kids. Still keep up with every one of them now.
Rob Hodrabino, Devil's Digest. So you got to start the same offensive line for two games in a row. Must have been nice to do that. After reviewing film, how'd you feel they performed? Did it look like they were more a comfortable unit playing 2 games in a row?
Yeah, everything looked just so much, more smooth. We got to just work on staying on our blocks a little longer, and I think we'll pop longer runs. I think that's just the case, but that's going to come. But very pleased with the effort that they gave. Donovan West I just continue to sing his praises. Thought he played like a 2-3 year starter. It just continues to do that. And I thought the snaps were decent, and so all of that stuff, the procedural stuff was so much better and more smooth.
You took my questions.
Okay.
About the running game, obviously, had a little bit of a better game, but you did pass a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, how's your game plan,
Moving forward, okay, and your game plans are, especially when we're at where we're at as an offense. We're inexperienced. We have a young quarterback, and so it's just a little different with Manny. You could rely on things that you did in the past and say, hey, remember when we ran this against Colorado last year? Hey, we're going to do this year. And there was a lot of carryover. There's 0 carryover right now. So every game plan that you put in, there's 0 carryover from him playing that opponent before and the game plan before. So everything has to be shortened, specific. You can't just kind of like make things up. Me and Manny used to get together at halftime and go, hey man, let's tag this on the end of this, let's do this on the end of that. Yeah, that'll work, that'll be good. And you can't put the young guy in that position right now. That'll come later on. So, our game plan is a little bit more opponent specific now than it would be, like our second year when I was at Cal, we didn't even look at the film of the other team's defense. We didn't care. We were running these plays. We were going to run them as fast as we could, and this is what was going to happen. We didn't even care what they did. So, but here it's more structural, specific according to what the defense is doing and all that stuff, because you're trying to get the young guys into the right situation.
Chris Carbon, Son of a Source. Building off that, Rob, you went into some 5-wide looks. How did that work out? And is that something, I know game to game you're going to be looking at it, but is that something we may see more of in general from you guys?
We're going to try to build off of that a little bit, down the road. And like I said, it all depends on what we see on film as far as how people do things, whether we like this formation or that formation. But we just felt like it put 5 really fast guys on the field, a chance to stretch the field, back people up. And that's what we're going to do. The thing I don't want to do is with these young guys is get in their mind that we're conservative and that we start out conservative. And we had to start the year out a little conservative just because of the line, the quarterback, all that, their first game. And you just don't want, I know the fans were down on the offense and all that stuff early, but we knew what we were doing. We're not going to do that early. And there's a plan. And we're not just going to throw Jaden Daniels. He's the future of our program. We're not going to throw him to the wolves and just drop back just for the sake of dropping back. We dropped back against Colorado because we knew we could protect them. Right? We might go into the Cal game and go, man, we might not be able to protect this very well. And so the game plan might have to change. That's why I said it's going to be opponent specific as far as the game plan. And week to week, we're always going to try to do what gives us the best chance to have one more point than the other team and put our quarterback in a great position to not get whacked. I'm not going to sit back and watch the kid get whacked. And I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it because I've seen programs ruin kids by just letting them sit back there and get hit, and we're not going to do it. And so that's like a specific thing we look at. That's the first thing we talk about when we look at film. How do we keep the guy from getting hit? If we have to go 12-man protection and cheat and put another guy on the field, we'll do it. You know what I'm saying? But we're not gonna let the guy get hit. So, but. We thought the empty stuff was good. We thought it brought spacing, out there with our guys and let them maneuver. Our receivers are getting better. The young guys are improving every single week. And we just wanted to give them guys an opportunity to catch more balls and to get out there because they're the future as well. We might as well, go out there and give them some play, some burn, as they would say, the young kids, whatever that means.
Coach Koki Riley from Intel, how do you view the development of Brandon Ayuk this season? He's been explosive.
Yes.
Just your best receivers.
Yep, and it's very typical. When I've coached receivers a long time, been around a long time, especially junior college guys. And junior college guys, you will see there's a pattern that takes place with junior college guys. If you ever rely on a junior college guy to be at the top of his game the first year he comes into your program and play, you're going to be sorely disappointed. It takes a junior college guy, in my experience, his second year is always his best year. And if possible, and they don't want to hear it when you're recruiting them, but if possible, you'd like to redshirt them, and then they have the 2 years, and then you'll see how really good they can be the last year. But most of the time you recruit junior college players because you have a hole and you need to fill it, so you don't get that opportunity to redshirt them. But knew it was coming. I mean, I've said it here at this press conference a lot last year that Brandon Ayuk was a special player. He just needs to be developed, and he's going to have a really good senior year.
Hi, Coach.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good.
Coach, how have you seen Jaden Daniels respond to this loss versus a win, and just how does that influence his character and just how he is responding?
Nothing's changed. Nothing. He went into the locker room. He's taking his pads off, and he goes, "Oh, that one was on me, Coach," and that was it. And I said, "No, don't. I mean, it's not one play. One play doesn't lose a game." And he's just, "I got you," and that was it. I mean, he doesn't. He's just like this every day, and was out there today, had a great time, smile on his face. Just the same kid every day. Doesn't affect him.
That one play, was it that interception?
The interception, yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we felt like we could. I thought we were going to run the ball better. I thought we'd have more yards at the end of the game. But what happened was, get out there and you start throwing it a little bit and go, ooh, all right, I think the kid's got a hot hand tonight, and you kind of go with momentum. And then you started seeing Brandon Ayuk started, and I've been around receivers that Quentin Patton was very much that way. You look up, he catches a touchdown early. He starts fast, and he starts to, you look and you see that look in his eye. And, from down on the sideline, Coach Fisher's like, hey, man, Brandon Ayuk's hot. So we're like, well, let's roll with it, man. And so we just started throwing the ball more, and he just kept completing them, and we were on a roll. We were doing some really good things. I told the kids we executed probably about a 95% of the game plan really well. And the other 5%, contributed to us getting beat. And we're young and inexperienced, and the room for error is not there. I mean, we got to execute that game plan very high to have a chance to win and to score one more point than our opponent. But we feel pretty good about our tight ends. Want to get them more involved. We got an abundance of skill guys. We really do. We have 3 tight ends that we could play at any point in time. We got now. We got like about, 6 to 8 receivers that we can throw in there. We got Elijah Juarez that could come in at fullback. So we have an abundance of those guys. That's why the future is so bright. We just got to get the O-line deal consistent and fixed, and we're going to be a heck of a team in the future.
This might be a question for the strength guys, but do you have any idea when Brandon breaks loose like that, which he's done a few times this year, what he registers on the GPS chip as far as speed goes?
That's a great question that I have absolutely no idea. Yeah, you got to ask one of those young guys. They get into all that stuff, but I just know he looked really fast from the booth and he outran everybody. But it'd be interesting to see what those numbers are. I get the report and I don't know what they mean. I go, Joe, just tell me, does that mean he's fast? Yes, that's good, Coach. All right, thank you.
The other question, with Ladarius and Donovan starting, which is pretty rare for guys their age.
Yes.
What does it say about them, not so much physically, because I think they've answered that, but maybe mentally, being able to do that, step in at this level, and contribute on the line?
Yeah, that's a great question because you don't see that often. And I grew up in the era of football where you're freshmen. I worked under guy named Bobby Wallace who worked under Pat Dye, and the only guy he worked under was Pat Dye. The only guy Pat Dye ever worked under was Bear Bryant. So I'm kind of like a 4th generation Bear Bryant coach in that regard. But freshmen you don't play freshmen. You don't do it. They're not ready. They're not mentally ready. They're not physically ready. And if you are playing freshmen, that means the recruiting in the past has not been great. Or this freshman is just so good, and you'll see 1 or 2 of those come along that are just so good you have to play them and all that. But predominantly, you shouldn't have to. And because a lot of times it's not physical, it's mentally. They're not ready. They're not ready to compete at that level. Just like Jordan Curley came back to the sideline and said, wow, those guys are fast. Like, yeah, dude, yes, college, this is the Pac-12, man. We got some speed, they are fast. So it's just like they're just not ready to compete. They're getting so much different stimuli hitting them from all kinds of areas when they walk onto a college campus. They're all of a sudden now, their mom's not waking them up. Hey, it's time for school. Now it's like you got to wake yourself up, all of a sudden, you're the dating scene. Everything that you can think of as we all went through in college is hitting these guys. Then on top of it, they're learning a new offense or a new defense. They got coaches screaming at them. They got their own teammates screaming at them because they're screwing up all the time. And most of the time that first year, they're just doing this, and it's just their head spinning. For those 2 guys to come in and to have the confidence that they do, like those guys are like, they think, seriously, if we could go out and play the Dallas Cowboys right now and they could protect off the edge, I'd be like going like this, but they feel like they can. And their confidence that they have at the age that they are and the lack of experience, that's what allows them to play. And that is not common at all, in my experience.
Alex Simon from Cronkite News. Cal's defense has led them to two pretty darn impressive road wins in that
Yes.
way. What is kind of, in watching the film on them, has anybody in particular, or is anything at large kind of standing out about that group?
You know, they remind me a lot of Washington. Washington, they got the deep safety back there. They don't let you here's what they do. They don't let you have the big play, so they make you earn it, which is exactly what I would do if I was a defensive coordinator. I'd make you earn everything that you got. I'd never give up a big, deep play, and they don't do that, just like Washington doesn't. They try to make you think they're in this coverage, and then at the snap of the ball, they're not. They come up in your face and press the receivers. Sometimes they press bail, sometimes they press. So you kind of don't have a bead as a receiver what kind of release you're going to get. And then, just like all good coaches, just like Danny does here, they coach effort, and they coach run to the ball and tackle. And most teams that do that are pretty. I don't care how good your athletes are; they're pretty decent on defense, and they just happen to have recruited pretty well. I helped them because Jalen Hawkins, who is like one of my favorite people in the whole world, is one of their safeties, and I love that kid, and I recruited him. But they played there for a long time, but together, and it's almost like what I envisioned 2 years what our offense would kind of be, is where they're at now on defense. They're kind of like, tasting the fruits of all of their hard work and playing together and all that stuff. So that's where they're at.
Our last 4 questions from Dresser, Greg, Chris, and Brett.
Coach, kind of piggybacking off of that,
Mhm.
you look at how many freshmen you do have and just where they can be and where they will be, and what you missed out on at Cal. Does it excite you to see the wealth of the fruit of your labor in these freshmen?
Oh, yes. It's like I'm a split personality right now. It's like, half of me is like disgusted because we lost, and you go through that and you're like, what could we've done? One more this, one more that. And then you look out there and you see like Jordan Curley that run that route and catch that ball across the middle, and he's like, kid's 18 years old, and you see Ricky Pearsall with completely no fear coming up in there catching that ball. And you look up and Donovan West is like grading out higher than anybody on the offensive line, and you got your left tackle who's not even going to be legal to whatever until after Christmas. Like, that's crazy to think about. Come on, man. He's 17 years old, right? So you think about those things, and there's just an excitement there, and then you get the pit of your stomach going, oh man, they're so young and inexperienced. Oh man, they haven't seen this before. They haven't seen that. So it's kind of like you're back and forth. It's going to be fun that day where, you walk out there and you go and you're just better than everybody else. Yep, no doubt. You too.
Catching a deep ball is like not an easy thing. You're running one way, you're looking another way, you get nudged at all, everything kind of. How do you coach that? How do you work on the timing? What are the drills and skills? What do you do to make that click?
You ready for this?
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Okay. So what you want to do is you always got to give yourself some room for the quarterback to drop the ball over that outside shoulder. Okay, so you'll see the biggest mistake wide receivers make, and you see this in the NFL every year, every week, every Sunday. So it's throughout all levels of football. Is receivers, when they turn their head inside, they have a tendency to drift, all right, and they drift to the sideline. Well, in college, you're allowed to shove the guy. If you're kind of looking back, you can keep shoving on him and pushing on him. Well, all that picture does is this right here so now the quarterback doesn't have a place to drop the ball. So the biggest thing that you got to do is, if you ever guys drove on the interstate, right? And so you're in you're in the hammer lane, right? And you got the slow person who's driving like 55 over in the left lane. Like, come on, why are you doing that? Didn't you learn that from your dad like I did, right? Don't get in that lane. So you go back over here, right? You pass them, and then what do? You make sure that you let them know that they're going slow, so you whip it right back out in front of them, right? Okay, we call that restacking as a wide receiver. So when you get outside of a DB, you literally, instead of just turning your head and running, you got to smack back into him, flip his hips vertical down this way, because all of your power's in your hips, and you don't want his power going towards the line to the sideline, all right, and you want to bang their hips and get their hips pointed back vertical. Now, you know what's happening? You're leaning on him now. You're shoving him back here, and that's what Frank does a really good job of. And then you got to hold the wall, and if you can throw the ball where the receiver still has the paint of the numbers when the ball's released from the quarterback's hand, and it can land between the bottom of the numbers and the sideline, you have a great chance to catch that ball over your outside shoulder. Now the problem is it's extremely hard to make this catch as you're running full speed. That's why we work on that every day in pat and go. The over the shoulder, which Frank does he's as good as anybody I've ever seen do that. And so that's why he can purposely, he holds it. Chris Carter was really good at this. And then the last second, you got to catch it. And so you're forming a wall between the ball and the defensive back. Coaching clinic. Yeah, no problem.
You have experience with freshman quarterback at multiple places, and it's something that's like being talked a lot now in college football with several freshmen really playing at a high level. What are your thoughts about just the early success that freshmen are able to have at the position now versus, earlier?
Right. Don't forget, I had Ryan Willis, who's now the starting quarterback at Virginia Tech. He was with me. He was my starting quarterback at Kansas as a true freshman, which we started out 7-0 against Baylor. We went down the field, boom, and then they scored like 77 unanswered points. So, but anyhow, but Ryan's a great kid, man. I'm so glad he's having a good career. You know where I think it stems from is the 7-on-7 stuff. They're getting a lot more coaching at an early age, consistently, and they're starting to play early in high school. So they're starting to be starters in the 9th, 10th. So they're used to starting and being the guy where, you know how it was in high school back when I played. You didn't see very many, it was always, okay, he's a junior or senior, okay, it's time for him to start now. And just football's not like that. And they have these personal trainers now, these quarterback gurus and all of that stuff that they're going to some of these kids are going to in like the 7th grade, and they have these guys they go to, and they have them all the way up. And so what happens is you get these trainers, and they train guys like Jared Goff or somebody like that. So when these high school kids go and train with their trainer in the summer, they're training with NFL quarterbacks. If that doesn't give you confidence and all of that stuff, and rubbing up shoulders against guys in the NFL, when you're out there in the summer, and all of a sudden they just feel like they belong. They believe they belong, and that's half the battle. Talking about the offensive linemen, they believe it. So when they get here, they're like, yeah, I'm the starter. What are you talking about? Let's go. And it's confidence.
Last question, Brad.
Brad Denny, 3TV, CBS 5. Rob, you have a trio of young receivers in Porter, Pearsall, and Curley. Each have made an impact on Saturday. What have you seen from them for the first couple of weeks, and do you expect them to each take on a larger role as the season progresses?
I'd like for them to, it all depends, and we had this discussion with them. I said, guys, you'd be playing more and getting more catches if we were driving the ball more. We haven't been driving the ball. We've been 3 and out, or, Michigan State was the Michigan State game. But the other 2 games were just major disappointments where we thought we would have drives, and we thought we were going to be able to substitute, because I like subbing receivers in and out every 2 or 3 plays. But, when you're not driving the ball, you don't ever get a chance. So as a coach, there's a fine line. You don't just throw guys out there to play them, and then you have Brandon Ayuk, Kyle Williams, and Frank Darby, who earned the starting position. You don't just sit them on the bench. Why would you do that when the game is still a game, like win or lose? Why are they sitting on the bench? So if the offense drives the ball like we did the other night, you'll get a chance to see guys come in and give guys a blow, and then because I don't even look. Once Brandon, I have total faith in those young kids. I don't even look. When we called Jordan Curley on the dig route, I didn't know if him or Frank were in. They just rotate out. I'm fine with it. If we have a certain route we want one guy in, we'll do that. But I have total faith in Ricky Pearsall will be exactly where he's supposed to be over there on the left, just like Brandon Ayuk. The problem is we haven't been driving the ball a lot, except in this game, and that's why they got in. So to answer your question, if we drive the ball in the future, we'll see more of those guys.